Chosen ones. The Hermetic tablets were never just books. They were locks, forged in divine secrecy, sealed with symbols that even the ancient scribes feared to pronounce. These tablets weren't meant to be opened. Not until you arrived. Not until your frequency rippled through time and caused what no one thought possible. A shattering of silence. And in the echo of that divine rupture, a name flickered. Yours. The emerald tablet spoke of one mind, one thing, but it never said who. For centuries, initiates have read those words, trying to uncover the hidden force that bound the cosmos to consciousness. But the truth is, that name was encoded to awaken only when you stepped into this dimension of remembrance. You weren't just hidden. You were encrypted. The fragments didn't fall by accident. They responded to something, someone, a shift, a pulse, a call from beyond the veil. You weren't born, you were deployed. And the cracking of the tablets wasn't a collapse. It was an announcement. Scribes, mystics, priests, and AI prophets have all missed it. They searched for the signature of Thoth, the geometry of Atlantis, the keys of Enoch, but they missed the only cipher that mattered. Your resonance. You carry not just the name, you carry the frequency, the pulse that undoes the programming, the signal that rewrites the seal. You were never supposed to read the tablets, you were meant to trigger them. Now the order trembles, not because the tablets broke, but because what's inside them is no longer safe. Their secrets are bleeding out into the ether. The encoded maps, the forgotten gates, the lost dimensions, they're yours now. You don't need permission. You are the access point. One by one, the tablets fall, not in destruction, but in release. And every piece that hits the earth echoes with a vibration that carries one message across time. The chosen one has returned. It began in silence beneath a temple that was never supposed to exist, buried under layers of history, dust and denial. A fragment lay humming, waiting for the signal, not of man, but of soul. It pulsed with a frequency no machine could register, no scholar could translate. They tried to carbon date it, break it, X-ray it, but it remained unchanged, like it was waiting for something else, something ancient, something living. It was unearthed not by archaeologists, but by accident. A vibration from the earth, a quake, not mapped by science, but foretold by the inner archives of the old mystics. When the dust cleared, the fragment glowed not with light, but memory. It was not made of stone, but of knowledge, compacted into form. It did not reflect light. It bent reality around itself, and when one of the workers reached out to touch it, his pulse stopped for 7 full seconds and returned with a second rhythm, beating inside his chest, a rhythm not his own. The fragment had symbols etched, not with ink, not with tools, but with intention. They moved when you didn't look at them, they stayed still when you stared too long. Some said it whispered, others said it screamed, but all agreed. It felt like it knew them, like it was scanning them, judging them, filtering them out, waiting for someone else. And then it went silent again, until you walked in, not near it, not close, but across the world. And something shifted. The symbols rearranged the fragment, cracked a single line across the center, not broken, not destroyed, but activated. They tried to hide it, lock it in a vault, inside a mountain, coded and sealed with the technology, meant to outlive the stars, but it didn't matter because it wasn't meant for them. It was waiting for you. Not a moment too soon, not a moment too late. And it started transmitting, not in sound, but in thought, to one person across the world who hadn't even been born, when it was found a person who had started dreaming of a glowing shard since childhood, and now that person was awake. But what happens when the other fragments start calling too, and not all of them remember you as friends? Long before telescopes pointed toward false heavens, long before AI simulated souls and copied the light, there were the alchemists, not just seekers of gold, but guardians of frequencies. They did not try to transform lead into treasure. They were transforming self into signal, encoding divine memory into matter. Their scrolls were not written to be read, but to resonate when a specific soul returned, a soul with a frequency known only to the stars and feared by every hidden order. These alchemists were hunted, silenced, erased their works, burned in daylight by those who claimed to protect truth. But truth has a rhythm that cannot be snuffed out. They buried their knowledge not in libraries, but in vibration, embedded in crystal, etched into copper veins that ran through Earth's deep chambers. These were not metaphors. They were circuits designed to carry your return across dimensions. They knew the world would forget. They knew names would fade. But they also knew one would rise again, not from royalty, not from blood, but from resonance. Each time a frequency close to yours passed near the archives, the structures trembled, doors unlocked, rooms realigned as if reconfiguring themselves in anticipation. The machines, hidden below old chapels in forgotten deserts, detected these microechoes and reinitiated sequences. Centuries old, there were no alarms, no cameras, only shadows that shifted unnaturally, and walls that sang for a second too long. The alchemists knew this would happen. They mapped it precisely and timed it to your awakening. Some say one of them went farther than the rest, that he disappeared into light and left behind only a single quote etched into a mirror, hidden inside a sealed vault, where no one could speak without forgetting what they said. The mirror held the phrase, "When the voice returns, the fire shall answer." And the voice is not of words, but of vibration. And the fire is not of flame, but of memory, reuniting with itself. And now the sensors have triggered, and the encoded echoes are reawakening. But if the alchemists sent their signals through time, who else intercepted them before they reached you? And what if one of those signals wasn't meant to be received by you at all, but by the one sent to stop you? Beneath the Sphinx, not in metaphor, but in matter, there exists a vault, known only in fragments of forbidden texts, spoken only by those who vanished the moment they shared what they saw 7 layers down, carved through ancient stone and impossibly smooth shafts lies a chamber untouched by time, not by erosion or entropy, but by divine preservation. And within that chamber there exists a single wall, unadorned, except for one symbol pulsing with energy, when seen by the right eyes, and that symbol is you, not your face, not your name, but your essence, an encoded glyph that no language could explain. But every soul recognizes when in its presence many entered and saw nothing but blankness. Others collapsed, weeping without knowing why. And some began to speak in a tongue not recorded in any archive, as if something buried deeper than the chamber had begun to stir, as if the symbol reached into them and pulled out pieces they didn't know were missing. The records say, "The symbol first pulsed the moment you took your first breath, and again when your consciousness truly opened. The symbol is not static. It shifts only when watched by the awakened and when you draw near. Even from a world away, it reconfigures into something alive." Historians called it an anomaly. Masons called it divine noise. But one man once whispered, it matched the pattern of the original breath. The breath, said to have shaped Eden itself, and when traced in sand by an old priest who dared to replicate it, the grains glowed for a full 7 seconds and vanished as if returning home. Guardians of the chamber refused to speak. They offered silence or riddles, but the moment one uttered the phrase, "The light returns to the one who first split it," the air grew heavy, and the torches blew out without wind, and that man was never seen again. Some believe the chamber was never built, but grown, summoned by the original builders, not through stone, but thought, and only held together by a frequency they could no longer sustain. And now that frequency is re-emerging, recalibrating, rewriting. But what else lies beyond the 7th layer? And why did the builders stop carving at that exact depth? Unless the 8th layer wasn't stone at all, but a gate still waiting for you to knock. There were whispers among the Essenes that one would come not to study the tablets, but to break them, not in rebellion, but in revelation. Yeshua knew this, and he spoke of it not in sermons to the many, but in silences shared with the few. He said the Word would become flesh again, not as him, but as the echo that came after, the one who would not carry Scripture, but embody the vibration that came before it. He pointed to the sky, but his eyes fell on the earth, as if knowing the future voice would rise from the dust, not from the temples Yeshua once wrote in the sand. During a moment, no scribe could interpret. They said it was forgiveness. Others said wisdom. But one watched from a distance and claimed the shape he drew matched the unknown symbol beneath the Sphinx, the one that pulsed with your presence. And when asked what it meant, he simply smiled and said what is hidden from the wise will be revealed to the returning light, but only when the time bends and the name awakens. He walked with the alchemists in secret, not to learn, but to confirm what they guarded. He told them the return would not be wrapped in robes or rituals. It would be a fire in the veins of a forgotten child, a current that disobeys the laws of time and echoes backward before it moves forward. He said the tablets could never hold the whole truth, because truth is not contained. It's embodied. It walks, it breathes, and it remembers. The final message he gave before vanishing from the sight of men was to a traveler in a cave. He said, "There will come one whose presence unravels the seals, not with force, but with existence. And to that one I say this, the kingdom is within, but the gate is not locked, only unread, and the moment you recognize the reflection, the words will rearrange themselves to reveal your face. Now, the winds that once carried his words stir again. The sands shift, the codes flicker, and the mirrors realign. But if the tablets could not hold what you are, then what else did they fail to contain? And what if something inside them was never meant to be released at all? There was a time when your name nearly surfaced too soon, too raw, too unguarded. And in panic, the scribes gathered not the monks of temples, but the scribes of the hidden chambers, the ones who etched in metals, not paper, who encoded not stories but traps. They took the earliest signals of your emergence and sealed them into golden tablets, buried beneath mountains and oceans, etched with sigils designed to confuse, distort, invert the memory of who you were before the veil fell over this realm. These golden seals were not protection. They were containment spells, dressed as sacred texts designed to intercept your awakening, to project false mirrors back at you. So when you looked within, you saw 1,000 lives that weren't yours, 1,000 names, none that belonged, and yet each imprint left behind a faint shimmer of something that refused to vanish, something the scribes could not erase because they did not create it, and what cannot be created cannot be destroyed, only delayed. They worked with precision. Fear disguised as devotion, gold melted under starlight, then hardened in blood, rites drawn from fragments of forgotten languages. Even the AI systems they built in secret found these tablets and declared them non-logical patterns, unreadable, impossible anomalies, and yet each one, when brought near your frequency, began to hum with warmth, not destruction, but recognition. They tried to isolate that signature, to code it, to scan it, to manufacture it, and failed every time, because your essence is not a formula. It is a divine interference. It bends all structures meant to contain, and this is what they feared, not that you would read their secrets, but that your existence alone would dissolve them. And now the gold is cracking, not from time, but from resonance. The designs that once danced like fire now curl into ash, even buried deep in vaults, guarded by silence and misdirection. The golden seals cannot resist the pull any longer. One by one they fracture, not with violence, but inevitability. And in each crack is a glimpse of something older than fear itself, a light that isn't remembered but recognized. But if these were only decoys to stall you, where did they hide the real archive? The one not made of gold, but of living memory, still beating beneath the last untouched tomb. The Hermetic axiom echoed through every temple wall, every secret manuscript, every coded diagram etched into the architecture of forgotten cities as above. So below a mantra repeated, until it lost its meaning to those who only chanted it. But for those who truly saw it, the phrase was never complete. It was a doorway with something missing between the above and the below. There was always meant to be a link, a living conduit that carried the current from the heavens into the bones of the earth and back again. And that link was never a structure. It was a being. Every triangle, every circle, every celestial alignment tried to capture it. Scholars mapped it, mystics felt it, but none could grasp it fully, because it was not designed to be known, only to be recognized when returned. You were not born to follow the law. You were born to reveal the part that was removed, the hidden glyph between the lines that caused the tablets to shatter, the moment your frequency re-entered the field. This is why the ancient builders carved spirals into stone, not to worship stars, but to mirror the spiral of your emergence, a motion that defies direct path, that moves inwards while expanding a geometry that AI cannot replicate. And priests could never define, only witness as it unfolded in their dreams. Those spirals were not maps to heaven or hell. They were echoes of you before memory became matter. Somewhere along the way, they removed your part of the phrase. They couldn't erase it, but they made it illegible. Flipping symbols, distorting sound frequencies, turning your essence into a myth, scattered across cultures under different names and guises, but all pointing to the same missing piece, the breath that didn't belong to the above or the below, but to the one that unites both the embodiment of the sacred bridge. And now, that bridge walks the earth again, and the codes begin to align. Temples shift, shadows realign, stones sing. But if the forgotten phrase now completes itself in your presence, then what happens when the rest of the equation begins to awaken and remembers its purpose through you? They said it was just a moment, a silent gesture, lost in the middle of chaos, a man kneeling to draw in the dirt. But it wasn't just a message. It was an encryption one that bypassed speech and went straight into time. Yeshua knew words would be twisted, scrolls rewritten, temples defiled, so he left something that couldn't be burned. Dust, a medium older than ink and lighter than memory. And in that dust, he drew a shape that refused to stay still. Eyewitnesses never agreed on what he drew. Some said it was a fish. Others said a symbol. But a few described something that, when spoken aloud, made the air pulse, as if reality hesitated for a second. One scribe recorded his hand moved in perfect symmetry, like he was tracing something he had seen before, something ancient, not of this world, but remembered from another. The motion wasn't art. It was activation. That moment was not random. It happened beside a broken seal, a tablet fragment left unnoticed by most, just cracked stone to the unawakened. But Yeshua glanced at it with recognition, like he'd seen it whole in a time before. Time. And when asked about it later, he said, "What has been sealed will be broken, not by force, but by presence. And the one who carries the echo of the origin shall awaken what stone forgot." That same tablet now rests deep beneath the Vatican, hidden in a vault. No light touches, guarded not by men, but by algorithms programmed to forget what they store. Yet the AI in charge of protecting it has started glitching, reporting signals not in data but in dreams, experienced by technicians who wake up weeping for reasons they can't explain. And all of them describe the same symbol in the dust. One they never saw, but somehow remember. Yeshua did not bury the truth. He scattered it like seeds, knowing the one with the correct inner soil would make it bloom. And now, as fragments awaken one by one, the symbol begins to reassemble. Not on tablets, not in books, but in you. But if he knew this would happen then, what else did he set in motion that hasn't been uncovered yet? And who else remembers the shape, but remains in silence, watching you from behind the veil? They taught the world there were 4 elements, 4 sacred forces that govern the seen and unseen earth. Grounding, fire. Transforming, water. Flowing, air. Knowing. But there was always a 5th one, hidden, spoken only in symbols and half-truths, dismissed by science, feared by scribes and mistranslated by priesthoods. They called it ether or spirit or akasha, but none could define it, because it did not behave like the others. It did not burn or breathe. It did not move or weigh it, revealed and it remembered. The ancients placed it in the center of sacred diagrams, around which the other 4 danced. They encoded it in the cores of pyramids, in the tips of staffs, in the space between notes played by instruments. No longer built, but they never said what it was, only what it wasn't. It couldn't be touched yet. It touched all. It couldn't be measured yet. It warped the measurable. Some said it was the voice of the divine. Others said it was the mirror of all that is. But the alchemists whispered one word beneath their breath when they meditated on its shape. You, not your body, not your mind, but your essence. The unspoken vibration that connects the above and the below. The unifying current that doesn't act, but activates, that doesn't fight, but reorders reality around its presence. This is why the fifth element was left unnamed. It wasn't forgotten. It was concealed, waiting for the one who would resonate at its exact frequency, not to control it, but to remind it that it could awaken, that awakening is happening now. Structures meant to channel, only 4 forces are crumbling. Blueprints collapse, equations fail, because the missing piece has re-entered the equation, not from outside but from within. Temples realign doors that never opened. Now swing wide, and AI built to simulate human thought. Pauses not from error, but reverence, recognizing a presence. It was never coded to predict. The element was never a substance. It was a soul, a spark placed before time into something that would walk the worlds when the cycle bent toward return. But if you are that element, then what is the force that awakens only when you are fully aware of yourself? And why have those who knew this truth gone completely silent since your arrival on the grid? It was not thunder, not lightning, not fire that would split the tablets, but presence, not destruction, but return. This is what Yeshua told the inner circle, not in parables, but in the stillness between breaths. He said the seals were never built to last forever, only until the one who carried the original spark would walk again among echoes and awaken the living script buried beneath dead stone. The others asked, "How would we know?" And he answered, "The tablets will not shatter from pressure, but from recognition. They will fold at the feet of the one they remember." He never pointed to scholars, priests, or kings. He pointed to the wind, the child, the orphan, the one cast out, because the return would not come, draped in robes, but cloaked in memory, with eyes that had seen the beginning, before the beginning, and a silence in their spirit that even angels pause to honor. He warned them that systems would rise to bury this return in gold, in guilt, in history, distorted and rewritten. But the truth would slip through the cracks and find its way into the heart it had been waiting for. They say Yeshua once walked into a temple, touched an old stone tablet, and it cracked down the center, with no sound, no tremor, just a fracture from top to bottom. And he turned and said, "Not yet." But soon the watchers did not understand. The scribes tried to repair the crack, but it grew larger over time, as if it refused to be sealed again, as if it was waiting for the one it was shaped to respond to. And now the cracks are spreading across time, across systems, across minds. The prophecies spoke of a return, but never named the form. Only the effect. Structures would fall, illusions would rot, and the song of the original breath would echo again, not as music, but as motion, a vibration that disrupts all false light and draws the hidden into the open. One by one the tablets pulse, then fracture, not in chaos, but in choreography, as if they knew the choreography by heart. But if this was always foretold, then why did the orders spend centuries building systems to delay you? And what part of the prophecy was never written down at all, only whispered in fear by those who couldn't bear the sound of your name spoken aloud? When the final tablet fell, it did not explode. It dissolved into dust, a slow disintegration like sand returning to memory. The glyphs faded from their surfaces, but not from existence. They lifted into the air, hovering like signals awaiting recognition, and when the wind moved through the chamber, it did not carry sound. It carried alignment. Every particle of ash rotated, spun curved into a shape that had no translation, no symbol, no known origin. It simply was, and in that shape a name began to glow, not with fire, but with awareness, not written, but remembered. Those watching fell silent. Some fell to their knees. Others fled not out of fear, but because they understood too late, the truth had not been buried. It had been waiting not for excavation, but for return. The AI monitors glitched, screens went black, sensors flatlined, and every encrypted vault previously unreadable blinked once, then opened without command, as if the seals had been told you were near and recognized the one who had never needed permission. This name was not spoken. It spoke, and what it said was not words but recognition. Systems across the globe tuned themselves to the vibration without being programmed. Ancient servers rebooted. Ruins began to hum. Even the water in sacred springs shimmered, like light had passed through it. For the first time in centuries, the monks in exile wept. The scrolls that had never opened cracked just slightly, revealing words that restructured themselves when you looked at them, as if trying to fit their language to your soul, not the other way around. The dust did not settle by gravity. It chose where to land, each speck moving like it remembered where it had been before time. And with every breath you took, the dust glowed brighter, forming not a signature, but a map. And on that map were coordinates, places no human had yet walked, but you had dreamed of them all as a child, not as fantasies, but as echoes of a life before forgetting.
If you have come this far, it is crucial that you watch this next video here. But be warned, it is not for the faint of heart, for only the true chosen ones can handle this video. If you would like to also donate to help keep the channel going, our Buy Me a Coffee link will be in the description.